Welcome to this webinar covering privacy and security in the new digital age. I am Susanna Kennedy, your host today, and I will be taking you through this webinar. This webinar is perfect for anyone who's interested in learning more about what you should look out for in terms of security and privacy when evaluating new tools in the legal space. Our session today will be fairly short, about 20 minutes. So for those of you who would like additional training, I do recommend getting in touch with me afterwards so we can set that up. Now, before we get started, I just want to share a bit more about me and WiseTime. I am the business development manager here at WiseTime, and I've been with the company for about 4 years now. Originally from Norway, but based in our New York office. We also have, in addition to the US location, offices in Germany and Australia. So WiseTime was designed by two patent attorneys who used the traditional start and stop timer in their practice. For them, this manual timekeeping was tedious. In fact, I have yet to meet another attorney who says they really enjoy manual timekeeping. And so when it comes to manual timekeeping, it's sort of a catch-22 for people in the legal industry, meaning that if you're spending a lot of time on timekeeping, your records are probably really good, but you are wasting precious billable hours. Whereas if you're not spending enough time on your timekeeping, you might not be billing as regularly or accurately as you would like to, and this often results in lost revenue. So WiseTime is a passive timekeeper. Our mission is to relieve professionals from the monotony and administration of timekeeping so they can focus on the needs of their clients instead. But what is passive timekeeping? It's passive timekeeping is seamlessly captures your activity while you work uninterrupted. There is no need to think about timekeeping throughout the day. It simply just works in the background and tracks your time spent in each active window. So during the coronavirus pandemic, law firms have come to rely heavily on technology to keep their operations running smoothly. And I think it's undeniable that law firms who harness technology, and specifically in the cloud, have become more productive and efficient. But then when your core business is providing legal services and not IT, it's also important to understand what you should look for when evaluating the security and privacy of legal tech software. So this is why we decided to invite you to this webinar today. Today, we will go through WiseTime security and privacy standards, tips you should consider to protect yourself and your client's data, as well as just general questions to ask service providers before subscribing to their services. We will explore the importance of cybersecurity and cover other topics such as passwords, login, or cloud computing, general data security, and user privacy for timekeeping software. So 2020 was the year of the virus, and I'm not just talking about COVID-19, but also based on the fact that the threat of cyber attacks is constantly evolving. With most businesses operating remotely, hackers took advantage of the gaps in 2020, and breaches almost doubled from 2019. So in 2021, the work from home trend, I think, will just continue to rise. And cyber security will also continue to be, a major challenge. According to Cybersecurity Ventures, it is predicted that cybercrime will inflict damages totaling $6 trillion US globally this year. In other words, if cybercrime was a country, it would be the world's third largest economy after the US and China. So when it comes to the legal industry, there are few companies that hold quite as much sensitive data. And because of this, cybersecurity should be an essential consideration when you are evaluating legal software. Now, these data breaches are not just embarrassing for the victims or, scary from an identity theft perspective. They cost real people real money. And in addition, cyber attacks can also have a negative impact on the law firm's reputation. So the fundamental question that many law firms are now asking has to do with what can be done better to protect data in the increasingly connected global digital landscape. And with that in mind, let's dive into some important considerations you should think about when evaluating legal tech software. So let's start with the obvious one, your login credentials. There are a number of ways that you can improve your password to help lower the risk of cyber attacks. Now, with single sign-on, there is no need to remember a new password or username. It's an easy-to-manage solution for a one-click access to the application. So if you are one of those who hates storing passwords, thousands of passwords, single sign-on is definitely for you. In addition, it is also more secure because while you lower the number of targets a hacker would need to attack, the service that provides the identity, such as Google and Office 365, generally put the largest amount of resources imaginable into protecting their infrastructures from security breaches. Now, if single sign-on is not offered, the very least you should do is to use a single password only once. I also recommend that you check out password managers such as 1Password, LastPassword, and so forth. You can also use password storage mechanisms within your browser or operating system. So when you create your password during the sign-up process, WiseTime uses Google Firebase, and passwords are stored with a trusted third-party identity provider. So we never store our passwords or your passwords on our servers. Instead, we're using a salted hash. And basically what this means is that we're turning any amount of data into a fixed length fingerprint that cannot be reversed. And then when we add salt to it, we're making the same password hash into a completely different string of code. So for example, if two users had the same password, the two salted hash codes would look very different. So here I'm just showing you the sign up process and how you can create your own password if you're not using our single sign-on. So firms who have already been using cloud-hosted services have had next to no transition moving to a work-from-home environment during this pandemic. And the reason for that is because you can easily access the data from anywhere. So one recommendation we do encourage when you are evaluating new software is to find out which major cloud hosting providers are used and whether the data is stored redundantly, possibly between multiple data centers. Every major cloud service provider will provide the highest possible standards in terms of parameter security and data security in their data centers. Now, when it comes to WiseTime, all our production servers are hosted in our own private virtual space in a Google Center near Frankfurt in Germany. And Google data centers are rated amongst the safest data centers in the world, both parameters as well as data security. And there are a few reasons why this is really important to us. One thing is that everything is subject to the GDPR there. So we do not allow Google to move the data outside of Germany. And also Germany and the EU have among the strictest privacy laws in the world. Now, before we start digging into encryption, data privacy is really all about asking the service provider what data is captured. So the GDPR and other data protection laws require that only as much data is stored as is absolutely necessary to provide the service, and at the same time as little as possible for a defined time frame. So as a time tracker, you might think that we capture all kinds of data, but that is actually not true. WiseTime does not capture any content ever. The only information WiseTime stores is the title of the active window and the duration of your activity in that said window. If there are several windows open at the same time, WiseTime will always only capture the active window. So this is the window that you type in or move your cursor in. And you will see that this is just enough information to give you a good trail of your activity that you worked on for a specific matter, but no more than that. So it does not allow any guessing as to the content of the matter that you've been working on, but merely provides the information that is oftentimes even required to be kept for legal billing, for example, in Germany. Now, to provide an additional safeguard, WiseTime takes the additional step in compartmentalizing data by storing all activity data in quasi-anonymous form. And that is the identifying information, such as, username or email address, team names, and the like are stored in a completely separate database from the activity storage. So these databases are entirely segregated and cannot be accessed using the same credentials. So even in the unlikely event of a data breach to one of these databases, intruders would need to engineer a concurrent breach of both databases to be able to make sense of any of the stored data, including a heist to our independent federated identity provider. So it is widely acknowledged that data compartmentalization is an important but often neglected element of high security data processing. And we have made it our mission to implement these additional layers of security in order to provide the strongest safeguards available in the legal tech space. Now, encryption is the process of turning information into code that hides the true meaning of the message. So when you encrypt sensitive information, outside readers cannot make sense of the scrambled data. It's only through the use of a decryption key that you can unlock and read the data once again. So from the WiseTime app that captures your information to the console, to the WiseTime connector and into your billing system, WiseTime encrypts all data with industry standard encryption. So your data is safeguarded against any spying while being moved across the internet. Now, the user right to privacy and full control of their data has always been a driving force behind the way WiseTime was designed and developed. So when it comes to privacy, and I think especially when dealing with a passive timekeeping or timekeeper in the legal space, we believe that trust is key. As a matter of fact, I don't think anyone feels very comfortable when someone else is looking over their shoulders. So we have placed your data in your hands completely and wholly. So as a WiseTime user, nobody can access your data until you choose to share it. And you have the right to amend any time entries. You can remove or manually add prior to sharing, or simply just choose to not share it. So there are no random screenshots taken. And as mentioned earlier, we do not track the content in the active window. So if you do decide not to share your information with the team or employer, your data will not be visible to anyone at any time. So unlike the many other timekeepers out there, WiseTime is the only product in the time recording space that has taken this radical privacy-first approach to data by drawing this clear line between your private data and the teams you are working with, to whom you may share your data. So our platform was created to increase your billable hours and not to spy on what users are doing throughout the day. Now, in addition to this, we have also built preferences for each WiseTime user into the software that allow you to specify things that you never want WiseTime to record, such as whenever you are, for example, on Facebook or in a specific program like Adobe, reading the news, for example, you can change and update these settings easily and instantly at any time. Now, let's talk about how long your data is stored. Another question that you should, always ask service providers. WiseTime offers both personal and data and team data retention settings, as you can see here. So you have the option to select the period of time we will store your data before deleting it, from 1 week and up to 2 years. Also, another big benefit with working with companies that are GDPR compliant is that you'll always have the right to be forgotten. At any time, a manager or admin can invoke the right to be forgotten And if you do that, the WiseTime user will be disassociated from their data and instead turn into an anonymous user. So their posted time will remain in the team, however, displayed anonymous. So when it comes to choosing legal tech, law firms should find out what data is stored, where the data is stored, in what form, and for how long. And I think by following these recommendations on privacy and security, you will already have, achieved a significant level of safety, and thus a peace of mind that your data that you process is secure. So we have now reached the end of this webinar. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.